LeBron James is no stranger to it all. The endless GOAT debates, the accolades, the critiques. For 20 years, he has been a constant topic of discussion in the basketball world. But this situation felt different. This time, the focus wasn't solely on him. This time, the loudest figure in sports media had shifted their attention toward his son. And when that figure is Stephen A. Smith, you can bet things are about to get intense. He's the type who greets you with a smile while keeping a dagger hidden behind his back. That's the Stephen A. Smith I've always known. That's just who he is. That's the reason he's not a fan of mine, because he's fully aware that I understand the truth. And trust me, the feeling is mutual. One day, Stephen A. decided to stir the pot, embracing chaos right from the jump. If you know anything about LeBron, you'll know he wasn't just going to let that slide without a response. But when things get personal, it's my duty not just to stand up for myself and my family, but also to defend the players. So, how do we end up at this point? Let's break it down. The jaw-dropping remarks. Stephen A. Smith is at it again. This time, it's not about Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, or even the Cowboys. This time around, his focus is squarely on none other than the king himself, LeBron James. And if you know anything about Stephen A., you're well aware that when he starts talking, there's no such thing as holding back. He's going to take it to extremes no one asked for. It all kicked off when Stephen A. decided one morning to drop a fiery opinion about Bronny James. Just to clarify, Bronny had only recently entered the league, and whether he earned that spot or not is a debate in and of itself. But Stephen A. wasn't interested in debating. No, he was ready to ignite a firestorm. Appearing on ESPN, and in true Stephen A. style, he boldly proclaimed that Bronny James didn't deserve a spot in the NBA, suggested he should be in the G League instead, and went so far as to say the only reason he had an NBA jersey was because of his dad. Harsh, right? According to Stephen A., Bronny isn't NBA material. Not yet, at least. This wasn't just some mild critique, though. Stephen A. looked like he was about to burst, shaking his head with the exasperation of a disheartened relative at a family gathering. He vented for what felt like an eternity, insisting that while Bronny was a decent player, he wasn't ready for the NBA stage. He pointed out that more deserving prospects went undrafted simply because they lacked the advantage of having a legendary father pulling the strings behind the scenes. It was the kind of opinion designed to spark a frenzy, and oh, it did exactly that. LeBron James made it clear he wanted to share the NBA court with his son. He said he wanted Bronny in the league, and being LeBron, he made it happen, paving the way for his son's opportunity. Naturally, LeBron wasn't too happy with Stephen's harsh critique. Right after a game ended, LeBron confronted Stephen, leaving no room for misinterpretation. His son was off limits. While we weren't there to witness the exchange, it's easy to picture LeBron towering over Stephen like a stern parent scolding a child. If there's one thing LeBron is known for, it's going to bat for his family. And he did just that when it came to standing up against Stephen's words. It is your responsibility to offer critique or take a stance when someone isn't meeting expectations. That's simply part of the profession. That's just the nature of the business. However, once it crosses into personal territory, it becomes my duty to not only defend my own household, but also to stand up for the players. But Stephen A., being who Stephen A. is, wasn't about to let that stop him from speaking his mind. Absolutely not. He seized the opportunity and turned it into a narrative centered on him. After all, what's a controversy without Stephen A. capitalizing on it with a media blitz of his own? Rather than allowing the situation to simmer down, he went on his platform and used an entire hour to discuss it. And let me tell you, he didn't hold anything back. He outright accused LeBron of being dishonest, claiming LeBron's version of events differed entirely from their actual exchange. And for the record, Stephen A. made it clear he believes LeBron James is completely full of it. In this specific matter concerning his son, Stephen A. went as far as to call him a liar. Today, he appeared on national television and once again told a lie. He claimed that if LeBron had taken things to a physical level with him, he wouldn't have backed down. At least he admits he'd probably lose, so there's some credit for his candor, I guess. He said he'd have gotten beaten up because if LeBron had laid a hand on him, his immediate reaction would have been to swing back without hesitation. But LeBron wasn't about to sit quietly and let that slide. Instead of delivering a lengthy tirade, he responded in an even more entertaining way. He poked fun at Stephen A. on the Pat McAfee show. And how did he roast him? By likening Stephen A.'s media appearances to Taylor Swift's record-breaking Eras tour. He's basically on a Taylor Swift tour right now, LeBron said, turning the moment into comedy gold. You're absolutely right. The king essentially told him, dude, you're overdoing it. He hinted that Stephen A. was turning himself into a show just to keep his name in the spotlight. I wasn't planning to talk about this. Seriously, I wasn't going to bring it up. But now that the video is out, I feel compelled to respond. Oh man, and you? What the F*** is up with you? Are you serious right now? If there's anyone who is eagerly waiting for this video to drop just to respond to it, it's you, no question about it. Honestly, no way. Let me tell you, if there's one thing LeBron has mastered, it's trolling with finesse. He managed to put Stephen A. in a tough spot, leaving him ranting nonstop for a full hour. Stephen A. clapped back at LeBron, saying something along the lines of, when you retire, let's see if I still talk about you then. You won't matter much, mark my words. Hold on a second. Did Stephen A. Smith really just imply that one of the greatest players in history, a man who's been under the bright lights for 20 years, will simply fade into obscurity after retiring? The same LeBron James who's constantly in the conversation for the greatest of all time? The same individual who juggles blockbuster films, thriving business ventures, and a billion-dollar empire? Sure thing, Stephen A. This is clearly a case of Stephen going over the top. If you've ever watched Stephen A. deliver a fiery take, you know the man is impossible to miss. He's on ESPN, running his own podcast, dominating social media, and probably passionately debating with random strangers at a coffee shop. That's exactly what LeBron humorously called out. Naturally, Stephen A. soaked up the spotlight. It's likely he's still reveling in it. But let's cut to the chase. This wasn't merely a small spat about Bronny. It was a battle of pride, egos, and the clash of two of the most outspoken figures in basketball and sports media. And the most exciting part? This was merely the opening act. Stephen A. Smith still had more to say, and LeBron James wasn't finished stirring the pot. At this point, it was obvious that the two were locked in a full-blown verbal clash, with neither appearing ready to back down. Typically, LeBron tends to rise above media criticism, but this time, he decided against taking the high road. Instead, he opted to have a little fun. While commenting on how frequently Stephen A. mentions him, LeBron delivered a visual that instantly caught everyone's attention. "I know he's going to be thrilled. He'll be grinning from ear to ear when he hears me talking about him again," LeBron quipped. "Man, I can already picture him grabbing some ice cream from the freezer, lounging on his couch in his tidy whities, just enjoying himself." The internet erupted with laughter. It was official. LeBron was doubling down on trolling Stephen A. Smith. He was targeting him in all the most vulnerable spots. It was harsh to witness. No shade to Stephen A., but there was really no bouncing back from that. Faced with two options, either ignore it completely or fight back, he predictably chose the latter, throwing shade at LeBron by calling him unfunny. The joke about tidy whities? That landed because, well, I don't wear them. I'll let you figure out why. Anyway, setting that aside, I personally don't find any of LeBron's remarks to be a laughing matter. Stephen A. continued by stating he didn't rely on LeBron for his relevance in the entertainment world. And yeah, I'm aware there are folks out there who'll claim I'm stretching this story for all it's worth. I've been successful in television for a long time, so I don't need this kind of situation to draw attention to LeBron or to boost my ratings. During his segment, which stretched out over an hour, he launched into a tirade about LeBron, insinuating that the basketball icon might have some well-hidden skeletons in his closet. He vaguely suggested that LeBron's public image might not be as flawless as everyone believes. For instance, he pointed out how LeBron skipped two major events: Kobe Bryant's memorial and Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame induction, both occasions where his attendance was almost expected. He remarked that it's better to appreciate what one already has, adding that he never really pressed the issue or openly questioned why LeBron chose to miss Kobe's memorial or Dwayne's induction. Especially considering Wade was instrumental in helping LeBron secure his very first championship win, his absence raised eyebrows. However, he stressed that he had avoided dwelling on these moments in depth. It was the classic case of, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. However, there was a glaring issue. His facts were all wrong. LeBron was present at Kobe's memorial service. He simply decided to mourn in private, away from the public eye and the cameras. Regarding Wade's Hall of Fame induction, the truth is that Bronny was undergoing rehabilitation at the time, recovering from his heart condition. Once Stephen A. realized the blunder he'd made, he had no choice but to retract his statement, delivering one of those infamous pseudo-apologies. "I want to apologize and clarify," he said. "Earlier during hour one of First Take, I misspoke when I implied LeBron did not attend Kobe Bryant's memorial. I corrected myself during hour two, acknowledging that he was, in fact, there. I shouldn't have even gone there. That was on me." His response was essentially, "I wasn't trying to accuse LeBron of anything." But let's be real, by highlighting some questionable absences, the implication was clear. He just didn't want to deal with the backlash of openly calling LeBron out. Sensing the opportunity, LeBron took full advantage. After leading the Lakers to a victory over the Pacers, he dropped an iconic Instagram video that had the entire sports community in stitches. The clip? Stephen A. in a boxing session, looking, well, far from his best Muhammad Ali impression. The caption, "Womp, womp, womp," paired with a cascade of laughing emojis. Naturally, the internet had a field day. Stephen A., clearly feeling the heat, went on a lengthy rant to justify the clip. He shared some long explanation about boxing years ago, dealing with two torn rotator cuffs, and more. Sure, okay, it's an incredibly cringe-worthy video. I'll be the first to admit that, even though I prefer to keep it online. If people want to believe that's how I throw punches, well, go ahead and enjoy the illusion. However, any chance to stop it was already gone. The internet had taken over. Memes and edits were flooding in nonstop. By this time, Stephen A. felt compelled to address the situation and take back some control over the narrative, kicking off his sort of apology tour. "Maybe I was mistaken. Are you paying attention, LeBron James? How about the James family? Rich Paul, are you hearing this? All of you out there, here's how I see it." He proceeded to defend his previous remarks, explaining that his stance from the beginning had been consistent. Bronny James should start in the G League. He argued that Bronny should begin his career there, spend his initial year developing in that league, and then transition from there. He claimed he always believed Bronny had the talent to make it to the NBA after observing him play. But then his tone noticeably shifted, softening his opinion about Bronny. While maintaining that the G League would be the right starting point, he acknowledged Bronny's dedication and strong work ethic. Interestingly, this sudden change in perspective came suspiciously soon after Bronny delivered a career-best performance. It almost seemed as though Stephen A. realized, wait a minute, if Bronny turns out to be the real deal, I'm going to look foolish. So, he resorted to his usual tactic. He subtly shifted his position without outright admitting he'd been mistaken. I just want what's best for the kid, he claimed. Of course. But destiny had one final plot twist to offer. After all the controversy, discussions, viral memes, and media frenzy, Bronny James ultimately made his way back to the G League. Suddenly, Stephen A. didn't seem so far off the mark anymore. This left everyone pondering. Had Stephen A. been right from the beginning? Should Bronny have started in the G League all along? It became the burning question at the heart of the debate, with some insisting he was unfairly burdened with meeting the impossible expectations tied to the GOAT's legacy. Some argued that he just wasn't prepared for the spotlight yet. Then there were those who insisted that his surname granted him access to opportunities that would have been out of reach for other athletes. Regardless of where you stood on the ongoing Bronny debate, one thing was undeniable. The clash between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James had quickly evolved into one of the most captivating rivalries in sports media. And knowing Stephen A.'s penchant for stirring the pot, it was clear he had no intention of letting the saga fizzle out anytime soon. But before delving further into Stephen A.'s knack for embroiling himself in fiery confrontations, let's take a step back to explore a pressing question. Did Bronny genuinely earn a shot at the NBA, or was he simply benefiting from his father's legacy? Bronny James, future NBA star, or just LeBron's progeny? From the moment he started dribbling a basketball, Bronny James was under intense scrutiny. As LeBron James' son, the idea of him being just another player climbing the ladder of success was never a realistic possibility. His name alone ensured that. Is Bronny James truly an NBA-level talent? Or is his prominence largely due to being LeBron James' son? His path from high school to USC has been under constant observation. At Sierra Canyon, he wasn't the primary star of the team. He contributed valuable minutes, showcased moments of defensive excellence, and possessed an impressive shooting touch. However, he didn't dominate games or lead in scoring. While scouts recognized his promise, they didn't view him as a once-in-a-generation player. His numbers were solid, but far from eye-catching. Despite being a McDonald's All-American and ranked 19th in the 2023 recruiting class, his performance on the court was deemed decent but not extraordinary. During his senior year at Sierra Canyon High School, where his team secured 3 Mission League championships over 4 seasons, he averaged 13.8 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.7 assists per game. These figures attracted significant criticism, as many experts argued that most All-Americans usually showcased much more impressive stats. Then came his transfer to USC, marking a major turning point in his journey. Even before stepping onto the court for a collegiate game, Bronny experienced a cardiac arrest during a practice session. This incident immediately sparked questions about his viability for a lasting career in basketball. After several months dedicated to recovery, he finally made his debut for USC. Although he occasionally displayed flashes of potential, he struggled to measure up to other standout freshman players. His performance was underwhelming, as he averaged merely 4.8 points, 2.1 assists, and 2.8 rebounds per game. Once he transitioned to a professional career alternating between the G League and the NBA, his numbers failed to improve significantly, with him posting just 0.7 points per game on 16.7% shooting. His contribution on the court was minimal, prompting an evolving narrative. Was he truly cut out for the NBA? Scouts and analysts have openly critiqued Bronny's future prospects. Some maintain he possesses the fundamentals to secure a role, highlighting his defensive abilities, sharp basketball IQ, and reliable shooting mechanics. However, some critics contend that his stats fail to support the widespread excitement surrounding him. In a draft class teeming with dynamic guards, Bronny doesn't particularly shine in terms of athleticism. He isn't a top-tier scorer, nor does he exhibit standout playmaking skills, and his time at USC didn't exactly position him as a clear-cut lottery pick. ESPN's analysts were divided. Some saw him as a potential late second-round selection at best, while others suggested he would benefit from another year in college for further development. Nevertheless, he entered his name into the NBA draft and aligned himself with Clutch Sports, the agency managed by LeBron. And here's where things get intriguing. LeBron James isn't just any ordinary NBA star. He's a significant mover and shaker, wielding the kind of clout capable of influencing decisions in team front offices. The moment Bronny announced his intention to enter the draft, the rumor mill shifted into overdrive. Would the Lakers pick him up simply to appease LeBron? Could another franchise draft him as a calculated move to attract LeBron during free agency? LeBron has been vocal about his desire to share the court with his son in the NBA, aiming to become part of the first father-son duo in league history to play together during a regular season game. To some, this goal is seen as a touching family milestone. To others, it reeks of favoritism. If Bronny weren't LeBron's child, would he even be part of the NBA conversation? Would he have the same chances if he carried a less famous surname? And then there's the matter of equity. Established NBA players spend years tirelessly proving themselves to secure their spot in the league. Bronny, despite his relentless dedication, has benefited from opportunities most players can only imagine. His draft considerations extend far beyond his abilities on the court. It's also about influence, marketability, and the weight of his father's iconic name. While some argue he's earned his chance, others believe he occupies a spot that could belong to someone more deserving. No matter where you stand, there's no denying one fact. Bronny James is part of the NBA discussion largely because he's LeBron's son. However, his ability to stay in the league and carve out his legacy will ultimately depend on his own performance. Now, speaking of individuals proving themselves, let's shift to Stephen A. Smith, a man who has built a career on stirring controversy and defying expectations. Stephen A. Smith is, well, quintessential Stephen A. Smith. If there's one thing he's guaranteed to do, it's speak his mind loudly. And if there's one thing NBA players are sure to do, it's fire back when he aims his signature verbal onslaught at them. His recent clash with LeBron James is merely the latest chapter in a long saga of basketball-related feuds that fill Stephen A.'s personal hall of fame of conflicts. If history has shown us one thing, it's that when a prominent figure fires back at Stephen A., he doesn't back down. Instead, he digs in deeper. Take, for instance, his ongoing verbal skirmishes with Kevin Durant. KD, well acquainted with stirring controversy on Twitter, saw things get personal when it came to Stephen A. The dispute began back in 2014 when Stephen A. asserted that Durant was contemplating a move from Oklahoma City to Los Angeles, a claim Durant immediately shut down, accusing him of being untruthful. However, Durant later departed OKC for the Golden State Warriors, indirectly validating Stephen A.'s earlier statement, even if Durant never acknowledged it. Over the years, their conflict simmered, with KD frequently taking jabs at the press and Stephen A. routinely voicing his disregard for Durant at any opportunity. So, how confident is Stephen A. in the Suns' chances with Durant leading the charge as their star player? His faith appears minimal, very minimal. But the spotlight wasn't solely on one superstar when Stephen A. decided to deliver another of his fiery critiques. Enter Russell Westbrook, known for a career defined by his relentless aggression, blistering speed, and record-breaking triple-doubles. Westbrook often found Stephen A. waiting at the metaphorical finish line, ready to remind him that those impressive stats didn't equate to meaningful victories. No matter how often Westbrook etched his name in the history books, Stephen A. was quick to point out that it wasn't resulting in championships. He didn't merely offer criticism. He diminished the significance of Westbrook's milestones. Even on the monumental occasion when Westbrook surpassed Oscar Robertson for the most career triple-doubles, Stephen A. dismissed it with a backhanded compliment, suggesting that while it was commendable, it wouldn't translate into postseason success. When asked about Stephen A.'s relentless critiques, Westbrook responded with remarkable composure, stating, "It's crucial to not let others derail your aspirations, your plans, or your purpose in life." Honestly, I see these college games, and I hear commentators speaking recklessly about young athletes, and I just think, why? And he wasn't wrong. Yet, when it came to a contest of persistence, Stephen A. was relentless. His fervent takes seemed endless, his energy to repeat them only growing louder with time. And then there's Ben Simmons. If Stephen A. Smith had a compilation of his most iconic rants, the saga involving Simmons could easily serve as an extended feature presentation. This wasn't a single instance of criticism. It was a relentless, ongoing barrage. Simmons' refusal to take shots, his reluctance to step onto the court, and his vanishing act after the fallout with the Philadelphia 76ers handed Stephen A. plenty of ammunition. He tore into Simmons for his mindset, accusing him of lacking the drive and passion needed to compete. Seriously, don't even get me started. This guy right here, come on, man, with the talent he's got. Yeah, I get it, he can't shoot, but he's got everything else. Yet, he doesn't want to play. He doesn't love the game. He doesn't have a passion for the game. Now, I'm not claiming he wasn't actually hurt, but I'm pointing to a clear lack of love for basketball. Let's not forget, he was sitting out games even before any injury came into the picture. This guy might as well have trademarked the phrase, "Ben Simmons is stealing money." Anytime Simmons skipped a game, Stephen A. made sure to call it out. Anytime Simmons sidestepped a hard question during an interview, there was Stephen A. shaking his head in frustration. Ben Simmons, don't even get me started on that guy. Look, I just can't. It's to the point where he should consider himself fortunate not to be in far worse trouble. When Simmons finally suited up for the Brooklyn Nets, Stephen A. didn't ease up one bit. He constantly reminded everyone that Simmons had squandered key years of his career peak. However, if you believe these moments are the only instances where Stephen A. has unleashed his fiery rants, you clearly haven't been following. His long roster of NBA grievances goes far beyond just big-name players. At times, it's directed at entire fan bases. Other times, it's aimed at the sport's all-time greats. And occasionally, his tirade seems so random, it feels like he woke up determined to wreak havoc. Which brings us to his next targets. When it comes to provocative opinions, Stephen A. Smith is a master of sparking debates, and no star is immune from his sharp critiques. One of his most notorious takes happened when he decided to diminish Giannis Antetokounmpo's greatness. Any basketball fan knows Giannis is a true anomaly, earning the title Greek Freak for good reason. The man scored 50 points in an NBA Finals clinching game, boasts 2 MVP awards, a Defensive Player of the Year honor, and, let's not forget, a championship ring to his name. Nevertheless, Stephen A. raised doubts about whether Giannis genuinely deserved to be considered a dominant superstar. He argued that while Giannis undeniably possessed immense talent, he didn't instill the same level of fear in his rivals as legends like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Kobe Bryant. In essence, Stephen A. implied that Giannis lacked the intense, ruthless mindset that defined those all-time greats. Even so, Giannis' on-court performances following these remarks spoke volumes, proving his ability to dominate the game without needing validation from media pundits. But if Giannis faced criticism, it paled in comparison to what Kwame Brown endured. As a former #1 overall draft pick, Brown became the punchline for one of Stephen A.'s longest-running jabs, originating from the infamous moment when Smith outright labeled him a bona fide scrub on national television. Stephen A. didn't merely critique Brown's skills, he outright demolished his reputation. Kwame Brown is gone. Los Angeles, Hollywood, there's no need to celebrate. Feel free to throw a parade, even without a championship win. This guy was undeniably a subpar player. No offense intended, but I have to be honest with everyone. He just wasn't built for basketball. The critique was harsh, and to many, it felt unwarranted. While Kwame Brown didn't quite measure up to the lofty expectations of being a first overall draft pick, he did manage to stick around in the NBA for over a decade, an achievement that most players will never accomplish. Though Stephen A. is known for taking shots at NBA athletes, his greatest long-standing adversary might actually be an entire group of fans, dedicated Dallas Cowboys supporters. If there's one thing Stephen A. delights in more than anything, it's poking fun at Cowboys fans every time their team inevitably falls apart. What fuels his disdain for the Cowboys? According to him, their fans are the most insufferable and unbearable fan base in American sports history. Each time the Cowboys suffer a humiliating defeat, Stephen A. can be found front and center, reveling in their pain with cartoon-like glee. It's basically become a yearly ritual. Cowboys lose, and he celebrates. Stephen A. uploads a clip featuring a cigar clenched between his teeth, and fans go absolutely wild. His ongoing feud with Cowboys supporters runs deeper than mere theatrics. It's highly personal. Stephen A. has been an outspoken critic of the team's ownership, coaching choices, and repeated failure to secure meaningful victories. He never misses a chance to remind the world that the Cowboys last won a Super Bowl during the 1995 season, reveling in pointing out that their fans are clinging to a bygone era. Naturally, Cowboys fans refuse to let these jabs slide. Every time Stephen A. criticizes their beloved team, his social media is engulfed with angry responses accusing him of bias and demanding he show their team the reverence they feel it has earned. But Stephen A. stands firm. In fact, he often pushes back even harder. And then there's the unforgettable moment involving Carmelo Anthony and Lonzo Ball that nearly sent Stephen A. into a full-blown meltdown on live TV. ESPN had released a player ranking where Lonzo Ball was placed higher than Carmelo Anthony, and Stephen A. completely lost his composure. This survey is an absolute travesty. It's frankly humiliating. In my opinion, the network responsible for this poll ought to feel embarrassed. Who on earth created this list? Whoever clearly has zero understanding of basketball. This wasn't the first instance where Carmelo Anthony became a subject of passionate discussion for Stephen A. Smith. Over the years, he had consistently stood up for Melo against detractors who argued his style of play didn't lead to victories. However, what truly sent Stephen A. over the brink was when Max Kellerman, his former partner on First Take, suggested that Blake Griffin was superior to Carmelo. Blake Griffin? Let me ask you something. When the playoffs arrive, who would you rather have? Would you prefer Blake Griffin or Carmelo? Blake Griffin. Are you serious? You'd pick Blake Griffin over Carmelo Anthony? Honestly, I'm speechless right now. Stephen A. was so floored by this statement that he literally clutched his head on live television, looking as though he might faint from disbelief. He was utterly shocked by what he had just heard and made it a point to let the entire sports community know exactly how absurd he thought the opinion was. Stephen A. has built his brand on being outspoken, passionate, and occasionally provocative. Whether he's taking aim at top NBA players, tearing into a football fan base, or unleashing fiery reactions to a player ranking, one thing is undeniable. He knows how to keep the audience buzzing. His opinions may not always be accurate, but they're guaranteed to be captivating. As long as players, commentators, and spectators keep responding, Stephen A. Smith will carry on excelling at what he does, shaking things up and keeping the sports community on its toes. We appreciate you tuning in. If you like this video, go ahead and select one of the options displayed on your screen to check out more content like this.